This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right, so here we are. Time to recap. You are currently on your sabbatical watching the NCAA tournament, so I figured this would be a good time to check in on our players where we, the preseason, I took apart 20 names or so for who will be kind of freshmen of the year, who will be in the NBA draft, who are names to look out for. And you're like, I know most of them. Now you've had time to see all of them. Right. Basically, our list was pretty good. Only
yeah, so
one
I
player.
think that's the one done people and the transfer people that wound up that people were paying attention to, the scouts. They all kind of played up to their level for the most part. There are some where they kind of dropped out.
So I'm just gonna start with the two names that dropped off the list completely.
Okay.
They were, I believe, both lottery picks in the preseason, and fell off hard. First off was Drake Powell at UNC. Second off, Jaleel Bethea at Miami. What happened to them?
Well, Miami was terrible, and Jim Larinaga was fired. Bethea, I think, is going to wind up in the portal.
Oh, he's in the portal because he's not even starting. He's playing 5 minutes. He's
I know I know this is gonna sound like rinse repeat for a lot of people when I'm kind of listing some of them, but there's a lot of them that they were gonna be one and done people, and it's like they're not gonna get a good grade because the thing is now is that what happens is now that you're allowed to go to the draft camp and keep your eligibility because they loosened up all that stuff for the last few years. Now you get a grade. Like supposedly the agent talks to the scouts and the scouts are like, he'll go second round at best. And if that's the case, or they don't think they're going to get drafted at all, they just go back to college, but they'll put their name in the portal to go to a new school to get a payday. For Bethea, he has some talent, but he just didn't have time to show it. Powell actually played better down the stretch. His teammate Ian Jackson's gonna definitely go. He played a lot better down at the end.
Yep. So the top 5 is all set, and it's kind of been set, and
Flags
that really hasn't.
Yeah.
Changed. We got Cooper Flag. We got the 2 Rutgers guys again. We got Harper and Ace.
They didn't make the tournament. It's unbelievable.
It's very strange to have 2 players in the top 5 and Team B so bad.
Bailey, I think, is going to be really good. Harper, he's got the talent for sure. He's a volume scorer type of guy. I could see him like being an Emmanuel Quickly type.
But watching Rutgers, it was like they just didn't know how to do offense.
No, I think Peichel hated. This was one of those things where I think the boosters made the deal, and the coach was like, "Okay, cool." And then once it actually
I don't know how to run plays.
Correct. Like I think that's exactly what happened, in my opinion. A less is more situation.
And VJ Edgecombe and Trey Johnson are rounding out the top 5.
Johnson reminds me. I think I said this when we previewed in the preseason. I'm gonna stick to it because it rings true. He reminds me of D'Angelo Russell when he played at Ohio State. He's just if you give him enough shots, he is gonna go off. He's a really athletic dude. He's defensively he's solid. Edgecombe, I think, just has physically all the tools. Kind of reminds me of Scotty Barnes.
So, do you want to go into the names we went over, or the surprise ones who jumped into the conversation?
The only one I want to bring up is like where I just want to ask you, where is your stock in terms of ceiling on Flag? I think his ceiling is low, but his basement is high, if that makes sense.
I don't know. Like, remember a couple years ago when Banchero came out, it was sort of the same thing. Like, you watched him at Duke, and like I was the only he'll be number 1. He's the best one in the class. You're like, no, and everyone else.
His numbers were solid. His numbers at Duke were solid, but then they go to the tournament. They go straight to the Final Four, and he was the best player, and he was just super efficient. And he goes number 1 to the surprise of people. Some people thought I don't remember that year in 2022, but I remember there were other names being bandied about as number 1. And when Orlando took him, people were like, oh, okay. And now Banchero's a star, Flag has been pegged for a long time as a top pick. So this is not a surprise.
But the hype machine was on him like he's the greatest. And it's like, I don't think he ever was the greatest of all time. And it's hard to tell in college because, was he any worse than Cade Cunningham in college?
No, I mean that's actually an apt comparison. I mean, Cunningham's more of an oversized guard. I mean, Flag is not.
I'm not saying the same.
Powerful.
I'm giving Banchero and Cade. They were both number one picks. Cade was already sort of like penciled in as the number one pick from the beginning of the season. Like, oh, why is he going to Oklahoma State, who was
I get
in the sanctions? But we already knew he was the number one pick. 2022 was Holmgren, Jabari Smith, and Banchero. Of any of them could have technically been number one, and was just who do you like the best?
Right.
But Cooper was like, yeah, we know he's the best, but there's no like Zion. When you watch him, it's like, oh, this kid's a beast. He's going to destroy. I didn't see that out of Banchero. I didn't see that out of Cade Cunningham. I don't see that out of Cooper, but yeah, you see
Cooper. He's athletically, he's deceptively good. Like, I mean, he's a white guy, but when he has those moments where he actually gets an alleyway to go finish at the rim, he is strong. And he's also very, very good defensively. He was one of the best defensive players in college after just 1 year. But yeah, that's really my only take on that. There's that kind of that top end. I'll just say if Edgecombe is not top 5, I'll be stunned. I think he's going to grade out really well in the workouts.
And also, don't forget, Markelle Fultz was the number one. Like, oh yeah, he's definitely number one. That was a foregone conclusion. And Ben Simmons and Andrew Wiggins were, we got to tank for these guys. So, I mean, did Andrew Wiggins, was he super dominant in college? No, he was just sort of there. And I think just the focus on him, because this past draft was so terrible. Well, this one's over there. This is the guy. Everybody needs to tank for him. And even the one next year who was supposed to be number one pick, everyone's like, oh, well, he's not super generational either.
I don't want to project too much the rest of your list because we didn't talk about it before we started. Do you have your other Duke guys on the list before you talk about it? Because I did want to mention both of them.
Yeah, they're both still on the. I also went from our list the previous time and checked if they haven't completely fallen off like Bethea. Yeah, Knuppel and
Knuppel's good. Knuppel's good. He's good. He's just one of those guys that he could put you in like point guard jail like Chris Paul does. He's one of those pick and roll dudes. Malawak's played a lot better as the season's gone along. Even though the thing that everybody knew him as is the guy who puked his guts out on the floor early in the year, but he's playing his ass off and he's big as hell.
You mentioned the two kids from Rutgers. You mentioned Ian Jackson.
Yes, he's good.
Liam McNeely from UConn, still up there. UConn had a down year, but they also had the unrealistic expectations.
I was about to say that, man. Like, how can you come back from having a team so good that the potential NBA Rookie of the Year was your third or fourth best player? Like, that's hard. Also, by the way, Cam Spencer wound up being a solid NBA player. Can you believe that white dude was probably their second best player, Cam Spencer, on that team, the team that went back to back? McNeely's good. Big body. He can actually penetrate. He's one of those guys he's not like a standstill white stiff. He can just go. He can go attack the basket.
The two kids from Illinois are still in there. Same with Igor Demin and BYU.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen too much of Will Riley out of Illinois, but I think Yakashunas can be pretty good. 6'5", so that's a good advantage at point guard because he's a point guard.
Okay, and then two names who are sort of, kind of all over. Both ACC, George's Ace Newell and Boogie Fland from Arkansas.
Boogie had a knee injury. But here's the funny part. Now we're at a point where all these teams are going to have to be like, oh yes, this guy's going to play. So because they don't want to get underseeded or overseeded. So like Fland is going to play in the tournament. But the funny part is when Fland got hurt, the team played better because Fland likes to burp up a lot of shots. So I think his stock actually went down over the last month or two.
Okay. And then, like I said, there's names that we didn't. There's always, where did this kid come from?
Right.
Yes. Can you guess them? off the
I
top?
can I give you? I'll give you three names that I've seen where I did not expect much out of them, and now I'm in love with them. You ready?
Okay.
Neat Clifford at Colorado State, LeBaron Philon at Alabama, and this is my favorite one, Derek Queen at Maryland.
We did mention Derek Queen in the first
He's
one.
he is big as shit. He looks like Evan Mobley, man.
He, I was surprised his name did pop up in the first one. So yeah, he's definitely rising up the boards. Yep.
He'll go top 10, I think.
Philon in Alabama and Pettiford in Auburn.
So Philon, Philon's 6'3". He's taller than Sears because Sears is like 6 foot nothing. But Sears was the 4-year senior leader, kind of like a Jalen Brunson type. I think Sears can play in the NBA too, because he can actually back down his man. Philon's got that extra game to him as a guard. So I think he's definitely. I don't think he's gonna play a second year at Alabama. That's all I'm gonna say. Who was the second one you said? Pettiford
and Auburn. These aren't. You didn't get any of the three names.
He can drill shots, man. I think he'll go higher than Broom at the end of the day in the draft.
And the biggest names who are like two are in like low lottery. The third one is solid first round. Jace Richardson at Michigan State.
Jason's son, yeah.
He's rising. He's late lottery out of like, where is this?
They have another athlete. They have another athlete on that team. His name is Cohen Carr. He's going to be a guy who wins the dunk contest one day, if that, for what it's worth. But if that means you're an athlete, that means you'll probably play in the league.
Thomas Sorber from Georgetown. Who they didn't make the tournament, but
he's very efficient.
He was injured. And
yeah,
he's out for the year, but
he's an efficient big.
And
I don't think he's a Henry Ellenson type.
And that's a bad combo. That's a bad.
No, I'm saying he's not. I'm saying he's not that type. Like, he's better than that.
Ellison flamed out pretty fast there. And Jeremiah Fears from Oklahoma.
A very small guard, but he can fill it up very fast, and he can get to the free throw line. He just I'm trying to find the best comparisons for these smaller guards who can just easily get to the rim. Like Isaiah Thomas back when he was in his prime. That's who Fears kind of is like.
And a couple just other names bouncing through. You did mention Hunter Salas at Wake Forest, who's still first round potential.
I can actually see him go to the portal.
You don't see him taking the late first round pick?
Well, Adam, it depends on these paydays. I mean, we don't have to get deep into the weeds, but there was a player named Great Osabor. He got to Washington. He got $2 million. $2 million.
Yeah. What is it?
Like,
Omar.
what if Hunter Salas said, "All right, I'm open for business"? He'll get $4 million.
What was it? The kid from Indiana.
Omar Balla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indiana paid him like over $1 million, and then he was not good, and that caused them to forcibly retire Mike Woodson.
Right.
Two other quick names: Danny Wolf from Michigan, Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina.
Wolf's good. He plays with another big who played at FAU when they went to the Final Four, named Golden. I don't think Golden's an NBA player, and if he is, he'll be like a backup center. But Wolf is pretty good. He reminds me of, I know it's a white to white comparison, sue me. You know Dean Wade?
Yeah.
Not D Wade from Wade County, Miami Heat legend. Dean Wade, the white guy who plays for the Cavs. That's who he plays like. Let me ask you this. The SEC was very dominant. Did you feel like the talent level was teetered? Like a lot of the really good players were in the SEC, or do you think it was just that they just got so many good players in the portal to fill up their rosters?
It's not hard when you have 16 or 18 teams. The SEC was always a big basketball school.
But 13 or 14 of them were solid to good or great because they just got all the NIL transfers because they got the money.
Yeah, and then they're all 500 in conference play, and they all sort of like it's hard to gauge how they are because they all just keep losing to each other.
Yeah, the ACC stunk, but I mean, we didn't even mention another guy who who's going to creep into the first round, Bay Ndongo from Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech sucked. But they have top end talent in the ACC still, even though the conference was terrible.
Yeah, it's been a really disappointing year for the ACC.
The conference that's always had an NBA talent problem, even though I don't think they have a success in the NCAA tournament problem, is the Big East, and I can't put my finger on why. I wonder if it just has to do with the revenue because they have the smallest TV deal.
Well, all the schools are mostly basketball schools. Don't forget they don't have
Correct.
Georgetown and Providence and
I mean, UConn's
DePaul.
won 2 in a row, okay, but like they don't always get the top end
Yeah,
talent.
and then
Sometimes
UConn was looking of joining the ACC,
the
was
Big
it? They
12,
were
the
Big
Big
12.
12.
Yeah,
They
they're
were
looking
almost
to
there.
get out because that's the problem is you have like the majority of the college is in the Big East are just basketball only schools, so you don't have that football money coming in.
Yeah, you did mention a name, and I kind of grazed over it. Igor Demon is good, but he never really like went an extra gear in the regular season. I think he's a guy that if he gets put into a solid, well coached offense, I think he can be effective because he can shoot.
Well, before I get to the next part, is there anybody I forgot that you like who popped up?
JT Toppin.
JT Toppin is he's the. I kept his name out because he's still sort of high second round pick territory, and everyone's just like, well, he's just seems to be one of those productive college players who doesn't have the intangibles that you get sucked
and I will
into,
throw you a mid-major player that no one knows now, but they might know by the time we get to the summer. He plays at UAB. His name is Yaxel Lendeborg.
Yeah, you pitched him the first time.
He's good.
You mentioned him before, and then I believe we also had the conversation about is Conference USA a mid-major, and then we're like, well, kind of everybody's a mid-major now, unless you're the Big
Gonzaga.
Four.
Yeah, Gonzaga always has like players. The Mountain West is solid, but I think Clifford's going to be great. Yeah, like it's not always, and we don't have to talk about the international talent.
No, this is just recapping the NCAA players.
But even though we don't have to, it's not the greatest group this year for the international guys.
No.
It's solid, but not great. There's no Wemby there.
There's no Wemby, and there should really be potentially no internationals in the lottery.
Yeah. Also, notice I did not mention a single Kentucky guy because they went a different route. They went with the 4-year portal guys who can shoot. That's what they went with.
Yeah, because they had to rebuild their team very quick. So now this comes to, Cooper Flag, and then all these teams are tanking for them. And, well, half the teams owe their pick to either San Antonio or Oklahoma City. Let's just say that it's terrible, and then Oklahoma City wins it. Where does Cooper Flag even fit on Oklahoma City? Like, there's no...
He doesn't.
You're gonna trade Jalen Williams or Lou? You got to ship out Lou Dort.
Well, let me say this. First of all, I don't think Jalen Williams being traded is a possibility. The only thing that could happen is because of the fact that Chet and Jalen both have to get their rookie deals extensions at the same offseason. Maybe they just trade away Chet because they know Cooper's coming in.
That's the thing.
That would be the only potential.
You're gonna have Lou Dort playing 20 minutes off the bench.
But that's a fantasy. Like I don't think that's gonna happen.
So then moving on, you have like Toronto. Toronto already
he'll fit. Oh, that's easy. You just get rid of whoever is at the 4. That's easy.
Scotty Barnes?
Who it is? No, Barnes can play the 3. He's a triple-double guy, Adam.
Yeah, but he's currently the 4.
He currently is, but they can pivot it.
That's
they're not committed to anything in Toronto.
Yeah, and then you have Charlotte, who have Brandon Miller and Mikal Bridges. Yeah, they're going to ship out Bridges. Utah's
I don't see too much drama. I know a lot of people. Listen, there is a bounce of the lottery ball of the ping pong balls that determine this. I think Washington and Utah have tanked so superbly that I think it's just them.
Oh no, it's going to be funny. You're going to have all the conspiracy theorists, which NBA
and then it's Utah or Washington, right?
Dallas will jump into the top 3.
How?
Because it's the frozen letter.
But didn't they trade their pick to Brooklyn in the Kyrie deal years ago?
No, I believe they have their own pick this year.
So they still have this pick. Okay. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Just conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked up all the trades. I know Chicago is in a precarious position. I know that one. Where
it's funny. Remember,
they might keep theirs.
You have Paul George, who's like, I don't like Cooper Flag. Well, yeah, because he plays your position and he's
going to replace you.
Yeah, he kind of, his ceiling is you.
So. You know what? You've changed my mind. Philly winning might be interesting. That could be really interesting.
What? Just to completely disrupt
if they win it and Cooper gets there, there is your safety valve so that Embiid can play half the games.
I mean, if he goes to the West, it will just be like, let's just give up on the everything. Because we can't, you have all these, Utah tank. Okay, so you got Washington, Charlotte, Philly, Toronto, like they're in Chicago. They're just not going to get better ever if they keep like Detroit.
And I hate to do this. I hate to do this to you, but I'm just going to put you on the spot. Utah's one of their two greatest players was a legendary white player. Do you think that if they get Cooper Flag, that he's going to be marketed that way in Utah?
Well, no, because they currently have like 5 or 6 white guys on their team.
Right. Well,
so he's just going to fit.
I think they're honestly, to me, Adam, I think they're all expendable, and the marketing deal was literally the new contract he signed in the summer was literally designed of like, oh, we can trade this really fast.
Well, that's why they gave it to him, gave him the
Early.
first year now. We'll do it so we can make the numbers line up easily, as opposed to he makes $6 million. And
so if they get Flag and they're like, Laurie's people are like, hey, what about us? They're gonna be like, you're gone. We're just sent your ass to Miami or some shit.
Yeah, Laurie, like where with that roster, and we'll get to that in our Utah postmortem, which.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're talking about all the different college players in the tournament, but it really is all about Flag. It really is all about him in this cycle. You know,
like
just
the top 3 are the top.
like Zion.
You know, like the top 5 are the top 5. Every mock draft has had those 5 guys in there. There's nobody who's sort of cracking it. It's just who fits for your team. And like you said, you look at Toronto. It's like, didn't they spend $200 million on everybody in their start? In their
Barrett. I questioned that at the time, and I still do.
Barrett quickly
on the rookie max. Yeah, and Ingram. You know, like
and Ingram. There's your 4. So you got Barnes and Ingram. Where are you where's Cooper Flag gonna be? Cooper Flag's gonna play the 2? Or is Ingram gonna play the 5? Like that roster, if he goes to Toronto, it's just how is that gonna work? We'll figure it out.
It is weird. It is weird. That's why I got a feeling he won't land there.
Okay, anywho.
Charlotte would work out great for them because now you got Ball, Miller, and Flag. And Flag played at Duke. So, you know.
Are you looking forward to this NCAA tournament? Or is it another?
I am, because of the fact that offenses are better. There's much more experience across the board. So teams that
because this is the final year of the COVID year.
Right. And so what I think right. So I think what's possible is a lot of high-end seeds are going to get upset by teams that just have guys who played for years.
Okay, now here's just a quick. Can we just stop with upsets that don't matter?
That's the best part.
No. A 10 seed Texas team upsetting a
no, that's not what I'm talking about.
2 seed Tennessee.
I'm talking about Yale beating Harvard last year.
See, but nobody talks about that.
It's going to the Elite 8. That's a shocker.
Having, like you said, with the SEC they got a ton of schools in. Mm-hmm. Having an 11 seed SEC school is not an upset team.
No, I wouldn't say that either.
Beat out the top, but everybody, that's an 11 seed. Therefore, it's an upset. No, it's an SEC school.
No.
It doesn't.
My definition of an upset is if you were a mid-major conference champion and you beat a high 3 or above, that's an upset. Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue was an upset. The other ones to me are not upsets; they're surprises. That's what I would call
surprises. Okay, well, I hope.
I'm looking forward to it, and also I think that these teams are figuring out how to game the KenPom system. So now we're having these 1-seeded teams that are like their net ratings are through the roof. So if they play like a middling team like UConn did in the tournament last year, they're gonna blow them out. And I'm talking about Houston, Duke, Florida, and Auburn. Like those teams are and Tennessee. Those teams are legitimately great.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy your yearly sabbatical.
Yeah, where I just drink under the table and yell at nothing, and I tell you how this guy's going to be a star, and then we'll forget about him a year later. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, for Andrew Reach, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.